Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our webinar this morning. It is live, so we apologise if there's any ambient noise. Today's presentation is on personalisation in retail, and specifically how to up your game this Black Friday. So we want to show you things that will make a difference to your campaigns this year. To introduce your presenters, we have myself. I'm Liz. I'm the head of marketing at AscendX. I didn't write the boilerplate, so I'm slightly abashed at reading aloud, but my knowledge and experience is invaluable, but we'll go with that. And with me is Michael Power. Mike heads up the future messaging product team here at AscendX, and he's going to be taking over partway through the presentation to talk to you specifically about how some of AscendX's solutions can facilitate deep personalization. So today's agenda, I'm going to run through what is personalization, how effective it is. I'm going to hand over to Mike in terms of an implementation exercise, and then we'll have a brief look at the future of personalization, which is RCS. Now, I will say that's not going to impact most likely this year's Black Friday campaign, but it's worth bearing it in mind because it may well make a massive difference to 2020s. We'll have a short period of time for questions at the end. We are trying to keep this under 30 minutes. Everybody has a job to go back to, so we will not interrupt the webinar to answer questions, but we'll take them at the end. Okay, and on with the show. So what comes to mind when you think of personalization? For most of us, it's as simple as getting your first name into an email or a text message. And quite frequently that in itself is fraught with challenges. The amount of times I've had my name spelt incorrectly or wrong gender, or worst of all, when they keep the merge tags in from the original HTML code. Even just putting a first name into an email is somewhat fraught with challenges. And the really sad part is that it doesn't work. Personalization in its most basic form is not highly effective. Pure 360 found that only 8% of respondents to a campaign feel encouraged to engage with a retailer if they're addressed purely by their first name in that campaign. And on the other side of that, you've got 31% of consumers saying they wish their shopping experience was far more personalized. So they're used to Dear Mike, Dear Liz. They want something that goes deeper. And 62% of consumers expect companies to send promotional offers, personalized offers or discounts on items that they've already purchased. And where's this coming from? How come so many people are expecting this behavior from retailers today? The answer is probably not a surprise. The influence of a small few are changing how buyers perceive the whole market. So this was actually, for me, quite a scary statistic, that 85% of UK consumers measure all brands against a select few. So they are measuring your potentially quite small retail operation against the might of Amazon, and quite often finding it wanting. But you need to bear that in mind, that you've got the agility to do fun things and cool things that Amazon can't necessarily do, and bridge that gap somewhat. But you know yourself when you log into Netflix that all the recommendations are based off your previous viewing history. When you log into Amazon, all of the books are based on your previous browsing history. Sometimes that's quite awkward when they've been gifts. I get a lot of stuff about, cars and things which have absolutely no interest to me at all. So they don't always get it right. But that's the experience that the typical consumer has today. 85% of consumers are measuring you against Amazon, which is a scary thought, but we're here to help. One of the last slides of stats, I promise, but it's important. 44% of consumers say that they will become a repeat buyer after a personalized experience with a particular company. So given that we all know it's much harder to win a new customer than it is to retain the business of an existing customer, giving those customers a personalized experience and winning 44% of them as a repeat customer is clearly a desirable goal. 49% of them say they purchased a product they didn't initially intend to buy after receiving a personalized recommendation from a brand. So if you send them a really well-targeted message with a product that's perfect for their needs that they didn't even realize, a lot of people will make an impulse purchase off the back of that. And better still, 40% of consumers have purchased something more expensive than they originally planned because their experience was personalized. So there's wins all over the place for adopting a more personalized approach to retail. So how to implement it? Couple more stats. I said it was one of the last ones. Kind of lied. Personalized call to action buttons, which is what CTAs stand for, convert 202% better than default versions. So just as a really quick takeaway, if in your if you have a call to action button on an email or a text message, if it includes, in this case, something as simple as your customer's name, they convert better than just saying buy now. Mike, buy now works better than simply buy now, which is something Mike will talk about a little bit in his when we hand over to the practical demo part. But that's a takeaway that you could use anywhere, and a good one. And the other thing I just wanted to call out before handing over to Mike was around a 760% increase in revenue from segmented campaigns reported by marketers. So what do we mean by segmented? It's not always possible to know everything about every individual customer you receive. Maybe you don't collect that information, maybe you don't have the tech stack in order to retain that information, or indeed create hyper-personalized campaigns based off an individual's preferences. But you don't have to go down as far as individuals in this case. What you can do at this point is implement buyer personas. And forgive me if this is teaching you to suck eggs, but if you take a group of customers who are broadly aligned, then you can segment your whole customer database much more easily than by going down to an absolute individual level. So if somebody has bought women's wear, you can make a broad assessment that they may be interested in future women's wear. That's a really kind of a light touch example, but it's about working with the data you have. So if you don't have really deep information on an individual customer's preferences, by using buyer personas, and just as an example, these are AscendX's buyer personas, you can say, okay, I've got a bunch of customers who are broadly similar to Nick. I'm going to send them a campaign about things that I believe are important to Nick. So you don't have to go as detailed as the individual. You can use segmentations and buyer personas to group your customers in different ways. So over to Mike, who has so far been very patient.
Great, thank you. Right, I'm going to take you through our studio product. So here at AscendX, we've created a product which enables customers to basically make SMS better. The idea is that it's enabling you to bring in some of the rich content, so things like images, videos, and that kind of stuff, but also include the deep personalization, the content that Liz mentioned. Now, what I'll do is I'll start with a retail demo. So I just want to take you through how you can set up your different templates, your different parts of that suit your different demographics. So let's start by having a quick look at templates. So first of all, I've got 3 template types: plain text, something that I'm sure you're all familiar with. However, we've added to this the ability to attach PDFs. So again, really good for that traditional use case where you perhaps need to send out alerts and notifications, or perhaps terms of service, those types of use cases.
Or a flyer.
Or a flyer, absolutely. Images and videos. These are they'll enable you to send out a link to a photo, an image, or as its name suggests, a video. Where this becomes really valuable is something we'll talk about later with the richer channels, so things like WhatsApp and RCS, and those channels where that content is now in line. But the really engaging one, and the one that I want to take you through today, is where you get to combine graphics, text, and buttons into something that's called a rich card, which in SMS parlance is more termed as a landing page. So that's what I'm going to take you through now. So let's go into our sales demo. So first of all, I'm just going to go in and edit this one and talk you through some of the features of how you can personalize your content now. So to start with, it's all about adding images. So it's a kind of a drag and drop style interface. You can add in your blocks here, so you can add in image or text blocks. And on the left here, you can see we've actually added a few of these. So our design team have gone to town creating some graphics for me. So here you can see some items that we're looking to sell, some of our offers. And down, as we scroll down the page, or as we look at some of the other areas, we've now got text. So here, rather than just images, I can actually go in and start typing the text. So so far, all really easy to do. We work with quite a few of our customers to make sure that the product was easy to incorporate images that perhaps you have already, whether that's on Facebook, whether it's on your website. The idea is that you don't need to get a design team in to create these images for you wherever possible.
Quick question, Mike. Where the adding the content has created that scroll, is that just making the page longer?
Absolutely. It's just because we're on a browser, and it's kind of condensing the design space into a smaller area. Once it's on a telephone, in a browser, then that just gives a normal page scroll effect, as you'd expect. But effectively, what we're looking at here then is our content. So this is our advert. This is our space where we're going to go for maximum impact with the brand, with the customer. Sorry. So the next area then that we're looking at is our title and description. Now, because we're creating effectively a rich card here, now this is something which is available on multiple channels. They have this concept of a title and a description, and this is where you can really start to personalize your content. So within the description here, we're using our double bracket notation, which means I can now insert a name. So here we're able to perhaps pull that data from our CRM system, our sales system, wherever it is you keep track of all of your customers. Ultimately, we can insert that data.
So sorry, Mike, but the double brackets function allows you to pull any data in. So as long as it was in the original data uploaded to the system, you could use the double brackets thing as it'll find the column header and insert that information into it.
It's even better than that. You can actually map it yourself. So,
cool.
If you've got it's called customer name in your system, that's no problem. You just map that when we do the send, and I'll show you that when we go to do the send. However, because I like to just keep it short when I'm creating these messages, it makes it nice and easy for me just to use the word name. And it also means that I can use that. So here we've got a concept of a button. So this is one of the call to action buttons that Liz mentioned earlier. And here again, I've used that name variable, that bracket, to personalize the button text to the person that's going to see this. So it creates a really custom experience for that user. It's drawing them towards that button, making them more likely to click that action.
202% increase.
Thank you. You do love your stats, don't you?
I do.
So really, that's kind of the first level. And what we found is most of our customers are able to get to this level. And to be fair, if you're doing anything with SMS today, it's probably very similar to what you do within an SMS template already today. So that's kind of that first level. But I did just want to talk very briefly about the deep personalization that you said, where perhaps we're now putting on things like custom prices. So this could be specific to that person. So maybe you've got a concept of customers that perhaps get a 50% discount, others that are getting a 25% discount. And again, subject to how sophisticated you want to get, you could do crazy things with this and perhaps even make these prices as variables that you pull in from your CRM or your ERP system to give a really, really personalized experience, maybe even changing some of the offers and what you're going to present to this person. So again, I've tried to sort of keep it at a level which most people can get to with just the data they use today, but you can go crazy with this if you wanted to and create a really personalized Amazon-like experience for your customers.
And what's the experience like? So when you send this to a customer, they're receiving a text message with a click through to this.
Correct, yes. So for channels where they support rich content, so things like RCS and WhatsApp will send effectively the rich card in line. But we make sure that we've got 100% reach, because at the end of the day, with all of these new channels that are coming along, they are only percentages of the market. SMS is still the one channel that you can guarantee you'll hit everyone on. So if we can use one of those other channels, we will do. But we always fall back to the best SMS experience we can, which is being able to provide the content that was there before, so the message you would have sent yesterday when SMS was the only channel, but we then link through to create that landing page. And again, I'll show you why that's important, because it enables us to capture some of the click-through stats and the engagement that you're getting with your customers. So again, I'll show you that once we've done a test send. Before we go there though, I just wanted to talk you through a couple of other features. So I've shown you a link button. Again, really valuable in the context of offers and retail engagement, those types of scenarios. But we can also add calendar buttons, and this will then create an appointment in the person's, in the recipient's calendar on their phone. So again, really valuable for appointments. You know, Black Friday is probably a date that most people know, but maybe if you've got a different sales event which is specific to your company, then you could use that to put that in the calendar. And also location buttons. So if you want to be able to give someone the route to where your store is or where their nearest store is, you can use location buttons, and that will again pop up Google Maps, and they can use that for getting traffic and directions and stuff.
So I'm thinking about a particular use case. I got an email today from Majestic Wine, both inviting me to their local store on a specific date for an exclusive wine tasting thing because I drink far too much wine. It feels to me like they could utilize all three of those things you just suggested. They could present some wines to me at a specialist price for me on this page. They could provide me with the link to calendar to make sure that I was aware of the evening, and they could provide me with a map to get to the venue, right? That sounds like a really, you can use more than one call to action button is what I'm getting at.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. I mean, you can tack in as many of these as you want. So you just add them in, and then it will give you the option to go in and set the settings. Again, you can personalize them. So if your customer, if you have which is their local store data within your system, again, you could personalize that to give them access and directions to their personal store. Same with calendars. Again, they can all be personalized. So the idea with all of these templates is ultimately, if you want to integrate them directly with your CRM system, whether it's through your own internal development resources or if you work with our PS team, we can integrate these using our APIs to actually send these templates out for triggered events and times. But I'm going to delete this off and keep it simple for today. So let's just take that block out. Okay, so we've got our template. We've added some personalization in. It now just gives us a preview. So first of all, we're looking at what the offer would look like on RCS. We're also looking at SMS. So this is where, as you can see, that scroll comes in on the page there. So I just scroll down a little bit so you can see all of that. So again, we're trying to give you some idea of what this is going to look like. These aren't exact. It's worth saying that different phones with different size screens, you know, we're just giving a best guess. So it's to give you some idea to make sure that the template looks roughly how you wanted it to look. I'm happy with all of that, so I'm going to go next. And then I'm just on a final screen here, and for anyone who's familiar with SMS, you'll be very familiar with these SMS settings. So this is being able to set your sender ID. So in this case, I'm going to set the name of the brand. If I was expecting two-way messaging, I might keep that as the phone number, the virtual mobile number that I would be using to enable two-way conversations. We do have some two-way chat products, which again will be featuring in another webinar another day. Again, there's some different uses for that. We can also add into the branded URL, we can put a bit of text in there. So we do use our own short URL. This enables us to capture those tracks and capture the analytics. However, we do also offer the ability for a brand to be able to put their own domain over that if you want. So again, it's a case just working with your account manager. But by default, you know, if you just come off the street and buy some credits with us, then you can use our custom URL, and that will give you all the stats that you want from that. And then this is where you mentioned before about that SMS channel. So this is where we now put our introductory SMS. So if we need to fall back to that channel, we do still need to kind of convince the recipient to dig deeper, to want to click on the advert, to click on that link to be able to come through and engage with our message. So here we still put a bit of text. So you can see here we've got the boutique 50% sale is now on. Check out the latest deals before they disappear by hitting the link below. So again, what we're trying to do is draw the recipient into clicking that link, because for us as well, for you as a brand, that's how you know that they've engaged with that message. That's how we can then capture that and then use that for follow-on marketing activity.
Can that, if you wanted to personalize that message, can you?
Yep, so the same variables are in there.
Double brackets.
Absolutely.
Right.
So again, we could put their high name, the boutique 50% sale is now on. In fact, let's do that. So let's change that right now. So Okay, so as simple as that, and it tells you, it warns that it's got variables, and that's because of the length of the message. With SMS, obviously you pay by the part.
Yep.
So you know, if
somebody
you've
had
got
a
a really long name,
yeah.
absolutely, then that could well put you into a couple of parts.
Yeah.
So there are loads of other settings. I'm not going to go through all of them today. Again, if there's anyone watching that wants more of an overview, more detailed interview, just get in contact with us. More than happy to set up a session. But I'm going to save that. So that's my template now done. Okay, so once that's saved, let's go in and actually send that. So really simple stuff. Send. It's giving me my template there, or the one I wanted. So I'm going to use my sales offer contact data, which came straight from our CRM system just before this, of course. Let's hit the next one then. Okay, so this is where I was saying about the mapping. So this is the really clever part of Studio, is that we can now go through and link up whatever it was called in our original system to what it was called in the template. We've got a couple of options. The first one is in the uploaded file heading. So I know it was called a column called name, because I used the same column name. But also if it was perhaps a piece of data which isn't specific to the person that's receiving the message. So maybe it was, for example, we wanted to have a template where we could change what that offer was this month, for example. I could enter my own field or leave it blank. So I could actually type in 25%, and that would then change the offer to 25% for this template. But I'm just going to go with name for this, because I know that's the right setting, and then let's hit next. So again, a final opportunity now, whether I want to schedule it to set this up to perhaps send on Friday just before I get to the weekend sales, and time it for, you know, exactly the right time for maximum engagement. So perhaps just as people get home from work or in their lunch break, depending on what I'm trying to do. I can do that, but I'm going to go with send now. Again, I can change the sender ID if I want. So there's a final chance to go in and change that to a name that suits me. Again, one last send summary. So here I can see I've got 3 total valid recipients. And it tells me roughly how many credits I'm going to spend for this, and again gives me one last chance to just double check that data. I can also see the message that would be sent.
It's got the Dear Michael in it.
Yes, so
it's pulled the preview through.
Exactly that. We pull the first one through, so you can at least get some idea, and again make sure that it's looking the way you expect.
Offers for Michael, I'm so excited.
There we go. So let's hit the go button. So now that's winging through the ether. That would be your sending, and that's it. You're done. So the campaign is now sent. Your phone out there somewhere should start binging in a moment with the offers coming through, and that's it. So again, from a customer perspective, from our customers, so you out there, the listeners, you can see it's really quick and easy to set up a template. You can add the content that makes it engaging. You can add call to action buttons that make it more engaging. But ultimately, the thing that you want to see with this is the results, and that's where you need to now. We can go in and look at the results of these. So I'm going to take you into a spreadsheet of this. So again, really simple stuff. I can just go in, download the report. If I use one that we looked at earlier, that will give me my the one, because I know we've clicked through and looked at some of those images. Get rid of that. And there's always a message just at the wrong moment there, isn't there? So let's go in and actually have a look at that data, and I'll talk you through it briefly. So first of all, I can see my list of recipients. I can see whether the message was delivered or not. I can see which channel it went out on. So in this case, one of them went out via RCS, the other 2 via SMS. And I've also got the times it went out, when it was delivered. So again, I can perhaps see the time between when I sent this out, so the time it was actually received on the phone is delivered at UTC, and then I've got my rich content was viewed at, so I can start seeing how quickly people were engaging with this. And perhaps with some customers, if they're engaging within 5 or 10 minutes even, I might choose to treat them differently on a future marketing send that I want to do to them. I can also see whether they actually clicked on it, so I got my landing page view count. So, and this is specific to the SMS channel because it's the number of times they've looked at that landing page. So here you might see if someone's forwarded that offer on to all of their friends, you could see that actually they've, that page has been clicked maybe 10, 20, 50 times. And why that's important is you might choose to, again, market to that person differently in future because they're actually an advocate for your brand. So there's some really valuable things you can do with all of this, but that's probably enough for this unless anyone wants to ask any questions. We'll cover them later or as part of a future demo. So let's go back to our presentation. I'll hand back over.
So, excuse me. So there was just a couple of things I wanted to ask Mike about, because we have loosely touched on the other channels, and these are not necessarily things that are going to impact this Black Friday's campaign, but I just wanted to ask Mike a few questions about those other channels and how they work. Most specifically RCS. I don't know if the people on the webinar have heard about this. This has been consuming our life for quite a while. And RCS stands for, I'll tell you the little I know about it, is that RCS stands for Rich Communication Messages, and as I understand it, it's going to replace SMS as the default messaging app, and it will allow you to receive this rich content into the app rather than having to be a click-through. But Mike, that's a very surface appraisal of it. What more do these good people need to know?
Yeah, so RCS, you're right, it's been around now for a couple of years, mostly over in the States, but it went live across the UK. So Vodafone have had it in the UK for years, but Google launched RCS onto Android phones across all the other networks, so outside of Vodafone, in tail end of July. So RCS is now live across all networks in the UK and France. And effectively what it does is it enables specifically Android devices, I will come back to the Apple question in a moment, but specifically Android devices to be able to receive a richer messaging experience. So anyone that's used Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or even iMessage, to be fair, knows about how sending images and sharing videos and emojis and all those sorts of things. That's now enabled through RCS. So effectively what it means is that a brand can now communicate with their customers, and that's why we've created Studio the way we have, is specifically to allow you to create content which works really, really well for people that have got an RCS capable handset. Basically it puts those images in line, so those rich cards, and again it's worth, if you have a look on our website, on our blogs, there's plenty of content out there so you can see how RCS works. But effectively it puts that content in line, so the message that's received isn't a text message with a link, it's actually that rich card directly on the person's phone, with the call to action button right there front and center, and the actual brand presence on the phone is so much better as well, because you've got colors, you've got the logos, you've got contact details, a bit of blurb about the brand. So again, RCS is going to absolutely revolutionize how messaging works. It's just there are a few of those teething troubles, which, like you say, this year at the moment, reach in the UK is between 5 and 10%. It's worth saying the engagement rate is double, if not triple, what you get with SMS and other channels. So again, even for that 5 or 10%, it's worth it for the engagement rates that you get, and therefore the uplift on any ROI on sends and stuff. But effectively, it's a really valuable channel, and next year will be where we start probably seeing more impact in the UK.
And I'm not going to send an RCS by accident. So I write my campaign in Studio, it's all there, it looks beautiful, I send it. Unless I have specifically set some things up in advance, it's going to be delivered as an SMS and landing page, correct? Absolutely,
yeah. So RCS does require, because there's verification, so the brands, they're making sure that any brands that are on the RCS channel are verified to make sure that it doesn't become a spammers channel, basically. And to go through that process, you have to work with us and your account manager specifically, and we can get you through that verification process. But ultimately, until you've been through that, then you're right. There's no accidental sending of RCS.
And you said you were going to come back to the Apple issue.
Oh yes. Nearly got away with it. Okay, so Apple at the moment do not support RCS on their handsets. There's big speculation in the industry, and behind closed doors there's lots of noise that at some point maybe they will. The reality is, for us and our customers, right now they don't. So what we're doing to cater for that is we are also supporting WhatsApp as a channel, which obviously gives you access to a large part of the demographic for a lot of our customers. And we're also supporting Apple Business Chat, which is Apple's kind of version of RCS. It's slightly more restrictive in the use cases, so it's more about customer service than it is about direct marketing. And some of the use cases don't easily map over from SMS to Apple Business Chat. But by using our Studio product, you'll be able to access Apple Business Chat, WhatsApp, RCS, and always fall back to SMS. So you can guarantee 100% reach with your sends, and wherever we can, we'll use a better, more engaging channel if possible.
Fabulous. Okay, so we are almost out of time. I can see that some questions have come in. And there's a couple of questions from listeners. Thank you very much for raising them. One of which is, how can I measure conversion? I think you ended up covering that, right, Mike, when you did the.
Well, just to be sure though, so in the report that you download, you can see in there not only the delivery, so in traditional SMS world, that's as far as it would go as it was delivered to a handset. Because we've got the engagement in there as well, that click through, we also have the concept of a read receipt. So that's what we would term engagement. And that's all included in that download report. It's also available via API if you want to integrate and do other things in your CRM systems, for example.
Very cool. And next question is, how can I link the URL into our analytics? So I guess you can get additional data about engagement rates if you can track the link using Google Analytics, I think that means.
Yeah, so great question. It's one that we've worked with a number of brands on, actually. So what we would advise in that is within the URL, so when you set up the button, in the link that's sent, so in the URL that we use, you can add variables in there, and exactly that's where you would put your tracking IDs. Okay. And that enables you not only to see then conversion, so you can see that someone's engaged with your message, and that comes from our reports. You would then be able to track that potentially in your own platform all the way through to sales. So you could actually get a true ROI on your message sending effectively.
Very nice. Very cool. Okay, well, thank you everybody for your attention and your patience. We are out of time. If you do have further questions about landing pages, how you can use them immediately, how they then evolve into an RCS proposition over time, please have a chat with your account manager, or indeed, you can always reach out to Mike and myself. It's liz.wilson@ascendx.com or michael.power@ascendx.com. Thank you again, and we'll share the presentation slides and the recording afterwards. Have a good afternoon.